Running a business is one of those things. You see all these channels and all these people and making it look like actually, you know, making loads of money and running a business is easy, it takes little effort. Now that's nonsense, right? So I want to dispel that, and we're going to look at the process of actually doing it, and you know, the rough with the smooth. So I've wanted to start a channel for ages, but I've just been putting it off, to be honest. I keep fiddling around with equipment and backgrounds and stuff and not actually doing anything. So I've decided that it's time to just throw caution to the wind, stop being such a blooming perfectionist and just get on with it. I'm Kyle and I'm 40 as of recording. My goal is to become a full-time professional artist. At the moment I would say I am a part-time professional artist. I always wanted to be an artist when I was a kid. I used to paint and draw all the time. It's all you'd ever find me doing, to be honest, in school or even outside of school. It was just doodling. And I had it in my head when I kind of got to 16, 17 that I was going to try and get into concept art. Needless to say that didn't happen, and I don't know, I kind of lost confidence and some of the desire, I suppose, to do it. I just kind of developed this belief that I wasn't good enough, and that stuck with me for a very long time. Here we are, over 20 years later, and I've decided, actually, you know what, screw it. I am good enough. I have the technical ability. Well, yeah, I struggle with some things, who doesn't? But, like, why can't I? So here I am. Now I know there's a big painting of me in the background. Now I probably should explain that. It's not as grandiose as you might think. It was actually a submission for Portrait Artist of the Year. I didn't get on, so I have to do another one, and I'm going to try again for this year. But I had this frame. See, one of the other things I do is I do wedding paintings. I paint weddings, I go to people's weddings and I paint live, and then I bring the painting home and finish it in the studio. And when I was kind of getting that all set up and that started, I was getting some tester frames made. I had that frame made and I had no picture to put in it. That is the only picture that fits in that frame and fills that space on the wall at the moment, because, you know, working on stuff. I've decided that I am good enough. I am good enough to sell my art, and I'm sure there are people out there who will appreciate it. Might be everybody, but I'm sure there will be some people, and I've got to start somewhere. So one of the things I thought I would do is I wanted to start kind of documenting my process, my journey from going to, well, from practically zero. I've got to the point where I am now part-time in my day job to try and facilitate doing this. The goal is really to try and push this to get to the point where I can go full-time. But I need to go from someone who is practically unknown to someone who is known and in demand. So I have no real idea how to do that. I've got ideas of kind of things that I can try, but I don't know exactly how it's going to work. Running a business is one of those things. You see all these channels and all these people and making it look like actually, you know, making loads of money and running a business is easy, it takes little effort. Now that's nonsense, right? So I want to dispel that, and we're going to look at the process of actually doing it, and you know, the rough with the smooth. There'll be a few things on this channel, right? There'll be basically a document of my process, the highs and the lows, hopefully. More highs than lows is what we want. Also tips about my art process for anyone that's interested. So I would say my style is kind of a fantasy realist. I love doing portraits and figure art. I just like painting people, but I also like trying to tell a story. So we can kind of share my process and hopefully kind of document how my work kind of progresses over time, and you know, how my style evolves and how I develop. Tips on actually, you know, being more creative and kind of getting rid of all that negative self-talk and actually all the crap that kind of gets in the way, and thinking about actually how can we be a bit more creative and more expressive and do things that actually light us up a little bit more. And just a blend of all that stuff, really. So this is the start. It's not pretty. Like I said, I'm trying to let go of the perfectionist. This ain't going to be perfect. I'm going on the philosophy that done is better than not done. You only get paid for done. That someone said to me a long time ago. And trying to get out of my own way and thinking that everything has to be like, you know, ultra refined. Because look, real life isn't ultra refined. Real life is messy. Real life is chaotic. So I'm going to embrace that a little bit more. Try and release some of the perfectionist in my head, which has held me back for a long time. For years, I have struggled with perfectionism, and this fear of being judged is fundamentally, that's what it comes back to. It's a fear of being judged, and the brain doesn't like judgment. So everything we know about kind of psychology and neuroscience tells us that the brain likes to avoid judgment at all costs, because judgment is a threat, right? It threatens our position within the social standing. And if we go back in terms of like old humans and other mammals, your social standing kind of affects your survival. So our brain is kind of wired towards avoiding judgment and trying to kind of fit into the pack and fit into the social standing, which kind of leads to perfectionism and the imposter syndrome and the, oh, I'm not good enough, and oh, what are people going to think if I put myself out there, and all of that stuff that I've battled with for the last 20 odd years. Try and let go of that and just embrace the process and go, you know what? Nothing's going to happen if I don't do anything. So where we're at now is basically I've set some intentions for the year. I've set myself some goals. Two of my big goals are to get into some exhibition, or to exhibit. There is an RHA annual exhibition in Dublin that I am prepping submissions for, and fingers crossed. And also I'm having another stab at Portrait Artist of the Year. I've also started building a website for where I can kind of sell prints and originals and try and get commissions. So that's kind of my starting point. And I'm ditching the counter intentions of not being good enough and all those negative beliefs and all that negative self-talk. I'm working on just making some shifts there and working on my mindset and trying to be more grateful for what I do have and my abilities and all of that stuff. So one thing that I've started doing to kind of help me on this way is to start trying to organise my time a little bit better. You know, I've got two small kids. I still work in a day job 3 days a week. So I have a limited amount of time to try and get a lot of things done, because as well as doing the art stuff, I also run a martial arts school, and I need to keep up to date. I need to keep on top of that as well and build that so that doesn't, you know, fall out, and also as a revenue stream. So one of the things that I've started doing is I've bought myself a planner for the year. It's 20 quid, actually it was money well spent. It gives me like a monthly and a weekly overview, so I can use it as a diary. And then basically what I'll do on this side is I'll write down all like the jobs and the tasks and the priorities. The priorities are the big one for the week, and then I can actually allocate them time in the week specifically and follow that. Look, again, there's no such thing as a perfect system, right? Things are going to crop up. Things are going to go wrong along the way. It happens. But generally speaking, I'm trying to keep myself a bit more organised, a bit more focused, and allocate time for tasks. I'm more likely to get things done. Also kind of breaks down the overwhelm a little bit, because when you're just thinking like, oh, what do I do? And you kind of brainstorm ideas and you have all of these ideas, like to try and keep action going and try and break down overwhelm is to start chunking things down into small, specific, manageable tasks and actually allocate them a time. Now, obviously, with two small kids and, you know, life is going to life, right? Things are probably going to happen and crop up along the way that are going to throw my schedule off, but I do my best to try and keep to the schedule as best I can. And we'll see how that goes. Can only try, right? What I plan to do is to do one long format video a week, and maybe a few kind of tutorial series and stuff like that, and it will kind of act as a record of what I'm doing. Primary goal is to build an audience, but it's also there to kind of help me keep myself accountable and kind of review how things are going and kind of look at ways forward, and, you know, give you guys that that realistic insight into as to what it takes to make it. We hope. If we make it. When we make it. When. Language is important. What we tell ourselves is important. Hit subscribe if you're interested, if you want to follow the journey, and if you want to try and pick some stuff up along the way, what does work, what doesn't work. I don't profess to have all the answers or any answers, to be honest. I'm making it up as I go along. But who isn't? If you've got any ideas for me, feel free to share. I'd love to hear your ideas in the comments. Give me some direction. It's always good. Anyway, I'm going to shut up. Catch you next time. Bye for now.